what ends up happening is for me, the mind had to become the strongest organ in my body. You know, everything else was damaged. It was now about what can I maximize that's not compromised. So psychologically, that had to become my weapon, and my tool to really address it. And I think a lot of that became around not letting.
Hello, David. Good evening. How are you doing?
Good evening, Yair. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I appreciate your time joining the show. Thank you very much. I know you probably after a long day of
Pleasure.
work, so thank you. Appreciate that.
Pleasure.
I want to dive right into your story because what you went through and the challenges that you had to overcome can help any person in life. Each person has their story, but the method, the ideas, the principles can be taken to any person's life, in any stage of life. So let's go back a few years. You go into a restaurant, if I understand correctly. Of course, you'll share more in a second, but you forgot your wallet, right? And then you go back and
My mobile phone, yeah.
your mobile phone. Today, you're not allowed to forget that. That was a long time ago, but today you can't. I think that's even worse than forgetting your wallet. But you go inside, you went to get your mobile phone, and you get shot in the back. You'll share
Yeah.
that whole story, but then also the doctors told you news that any other person that would hear them might just give up, and not only give up, maybe his condition will get much worse because not only physically that they're not doing well, also spiritually, mentally, and that's a way just to go down. So if you could share more of your story, what are the tools that you used in order to overcome your challenges, I would love to hear that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, so it goes back about 24 years. I was 18 years old. It was the end of my first year after school. It was a Sunday evening. I was planning to travel the next morning for our in South Africa, our summer vacation. I was leaving early next morning, and yeah. So I was leaving the next morning and said goodbye to some friends. We were at a coffee shop in a very good area in Johannesburg, about 15, 20 minutes from my home. I left with a friend of mine. We got home. As I got to my front door, I realized that I'd left my mobile phone. And because I was leaving the next morning on a plane, I had to go back to fetch it. We tried to phone it. Obviously, cell phones have just come out, so it wasn't like a chat or whatever. We could see where it was. Phoned, it was off. So I got back in the car from my house, went all the way back to the coffee shop, and when I arrived there, I walked towards the front entrance from the street. I could see the lights on, the doors open, and no one inside. So I walked closer to the door, and I noticed there were two people, two ladies that were actually under the table, and it seemed a little bit peculiar. I turned around, I walked back to the car where my friend was driving, and about 5 meters, and I said to him, something doesn't seem right, and almost instinctively, intuitively, I just turned around as if I was going back to see what I could do to help. There was seemed nothing out of as a risk, and as I walked towards the door again, a gentleman came running from inside towards the outside,
Oh, so
and
it
as
was
he did so, he
quiet.
lifted.
It was quiet when
Dead
he.
quiet. Couldn't see anything. There was
Oh,
nothing around. Yeah.
so
And
he was brought
suddenly
in.
the guys that were obviously at the back, he came out, and as he came out, I realized what was happening. And he lifted up his shirt and he took out a weapon, a firearm, and I remember, like, instinctively I put up my hands and I just said, please don't shoot. And from about a meter away, I just heard this massive sound, and a bullet went straight through my back, so through my lumbar spine,
1
at
meter.
level 2. Yeah,
That's
from a
nothing.
meter away. So
Wow.
yeah, so it came straight in and out, and as it did that, it hit my spinal cord, I fell to the ground. My legs were rubber. I'd lost sensation, and obviously I was very nervous. What if there were other people? I didn't know what was going to go on, and I managed to crawl on my arms just around the pillar. And within about a minute or two, everything was quiet, and some people had come out. They'd been locked. They were holding up the place. They were robbing it. 6 gentlemen with weapons, and guys came out of the bathrooms where they were locked away. And I was obviously bleeding quite badly. We didn't have Hatsola or any medical response that actually launched in South Africa that year. And we didn't know what to do. I got two guys that were in the restaurant, and my friend who was driving and watched this happen. We decided to take me in the back of his car to the local hospital, which was nearby. At this stage, I mean, I couldn't feel my legs. A lot of adrenaline, a lot of I was bleeding a lot, and
Oh, you were conscious.
I was completely aware. Yeah, I was completely
Oh my
conscious. I
God.
was aware of what was going on, and very scary. Very, trauma. It's real trauma. A lot of blood and fear, and what we've just been in a very traumatic incident. And we got to the hospital, and as we arrived there was no casualty or trauma facility at the hospital, the nearest one there. It was a maternity hospital for pregnant women to come and deliver their babies. So they weren't expecting a gunshot victim to arrive with flashing lights. And they managed to. We had some volunteers from Ezra Medical Services, and they met me at the hospital and stabilized me. And over a period of about an hour, managed to, just make sure that everything was under control. I mean, obviously it was very, very critical, but they then moved me in an ambulance to another hospital where I spent the next probably 10 weeks. I have moments of memory within different periods of that. Most significantly, the first three days, I had a spinal fusion. I had abdominal operation. They had to take out a lot of the bone fragments from the shattering of the spine and the bones, and the damage to the internal organs had shredded. Imagine like sharp glass that had cut through the organs. So there was a lot of work to be done to stabilize the environment, the body in that area, the abdominal area. So they had to cut me from the front, from behind, in the back. And I spent the next probably 8 to 10 weeks having 5 major surgeries for bone grafts and reconstruction in that lumbar spine. And in that period, at a point in time in ICU, I remember just my first recollection of waking up in that ICU ward, and the doctors, basically the words I remember very clearly was that the damage to the spine is so severe, it's incomplete, in that the spine wasn't severed itself, or the spinal cord wasn't severed, but the view was that I'll never be able to get out of a wheelchair. I'd lost any ability to.
Never?
Yeah, never. That was the view. I mean, that was at that stage. I was completely paralyzed from the waist down. I couldn't feel or move any of my legs. I couldn't urinate. I had a stomach, what they call a stoma bag, that fitted to my stomach because there was damage. They didn't think that my stomach would work. So yeah, I mean, that was, and I was quite drugged out and completely, in and out of consciousness, and now having to process this idea of being 18 years old. The world is like only opening up for me, and deciding, I was at the time I was studying in IT. I was meant to start a degree in finance the next month. I was going away, and everything was just fantastic in my life. And suddenly, in 1 second, everything had changed. And I think part of that initial journey was having to, one, recover from just the physical impact of the wounds and the damage and the pain, and that, and then the psychological. I won't even say the trauma. It wasn't about the trauma so much for me, but the psychological understanding or comprehension of and processing of what now my life was going to look like, because it certainly wasn't like it was before. If I was going, traveling or studying or playing sport, I played competitive sport at that stage. It was a big part of my life. And now it was completely just on hold and unlikely to ever restore. So I think there was a lot around just that physical recovery and emotional and psychological understanding of like, now what? So yeah, I mean, I spent 10 weeks there in the hospital, and at the end of that period, came home, had to then check into a physical rehabilitation center where I was meant to spend another 6 weeks, with occupational therapists and physios, all really about getting somewhat independent, a life in a wheelchair. Can you get it, into a bath? Can you, get it, transfer into a vehicle, in and out of a wheelchair? Can you, almost get dressed? But at a very elementary level, it wasn't trying to be independent. I mean, and I was physically,
you weren't expecting that from you. The doctor said that you're going to stay in the wheelchair.
Yeah, I mean, they were talking about modifying my vehicle. I just got my driver's license in South Africa at 18. I'd only had a driver's license for 6 or 7 months. It was an amazing, exposure now to like modifying a vehicle to drive with my hands, modifying my house to be accessible on a ramp, and how to get into the bathroom, and how to deal with all of these things. I mean, things I never even thought of. And then the physical aspects as well. If you're not using a catheter to urinate every 4 hours, and having someone help wash you and dress you and feed you, and just being mobile. And that's not what you're meant to be doing at 18 or 19 years old. You're meant to be just having the time of your life.
Wow, that's so crazy. And like, you were in a stage, you also said you were playing competitive sport. You were right before vacation, right before going into your studies of finance. I think this is like, in any time in life to go through something like this, it's terrible. Okay, I'm not taking it away, but this is like the stage in life that like you're the most thriving, and then all of a sudden, like, getting shot, you were back in so close, and having now to deal. Like, I'm trying to think, I'm thinking out loud, and you told me, I wonder if you have an answer for this. Which one was worse, like the mental part of, or the psychological part of now understanding, wow, like I was on my way, starting going up, and I have all this amazing future. All of a sudden, it cuts out because the doctor says, "Listen, you're probably going to stay in the wheelchair." Or the physical part. Which one of them was tougher?
So I think once I got out of the hospital in that medical phase of the physical, when you're lying flat on your back for 10 weeks because of the damage to the spine, I couldn't even have a pillow. They had to turn me every 2 hours to avoid the bed sore. So you don't even get the time really to process. I think the physical and psychological merge in the challenge, when you get back into life, because they're so tightly coupled. The inability to move, to pick up take a cup of coffee from the kitchen to the bedroom, or just even move around or pick something up if you can't reach it, or want to reach something that you're stuck in a chair. It becomes so tightly coupled to that psychological, so that they become one in the same. And what ends up happening is for me, the mind had to become the strongest organ in my body. Everything else was damaged. It was now about what can I maximize that's not compromised. So psychologically, that had to become my weapon, and my tool to really address it. And I think a lot of that became around not letting the mind wander into various places. One of them being the questioning of, why me? What if I went later? What if I didn't leave my phone? What if I didn't, if I didn't go back? If I didn't do this? So there's this questioning, asking questions around this, things you'll never get answers to, and that's a very dangerous path or rabbit hole to go down. The other is the thinking around what you can't do or what I couldn't do. I can't run. I can't get down 2 steps. I can't play sports. I can't this. Will I ever, get married, kids, this, travel, go skiing in the mountains, ride a bike. I loved riding a bicycle. So that became another, area where I just couldn't let the mind go to that space. And I think that's where it was less around this like positive mind that, people talk about this, wow, what an inspiring, positive, he's just so solid. It was more around not letting negative in rather than being overly positive and deluded, completely, thinking that everything was going to be perfect. I think my starting point was around just not letting myself get into a dark space. And from there started to build up again, like, what can I do? What is it that, what's reasonable to be achieved in a certain period of time? And I set for myself, a process of 5 years that I wanted to work towards being on my feet again. It was like this. I was adamant. I was, the upside to being 18 and being able to do it is you've got your whole life to fight for. I think there's a lot of people, and I met over many years, a lot of people that have encountered, especially spinal cord injuries. That's really what I've been drawn to helping people with or learning from. And I think in many respects, the older they are, the less they've got that physical fight in them and that need to really, fight to recover. For me, I had no choice. In my mind, it was like I had a life to still build. Yes, it would be very different, but it certainly was not something I was able to give up on.
Wow. So even though the doctors told you that you're going to stay in a wheelchair, like you had that mindset, okay, first put aside those negative thoughts. Now, okay, what can I do? And I'm not going to give up. Now, it's really nice and easy. Like for me, I hear it. It sounds okay, nice. I'm sitting in a nice place. You're also, I like your background. But how do you do that where you're in that phase? Like, thank God today we didn't say that, but today you can walk. You're like you're moving. You're good. You're able to overcome this challenge. But how do you not let negative thoughts in when you like you're in the trench, like you're in rock bottom? Like you said a second ago, you were supposed to go on vacation, start studying your competitive sports. You're at rock bottom in that stage, not to let negative thoughts in. Like, how do you do that?
Yeah. So I think for me, physically, I was very fortunate that there wasn't a severed spine. If the spinal cord is completely severed, there's no chance. Like medically, there's just no way. So there was this doubt, this unknown around what level of recovery could be potentially. Although it was clear it wouldn't be to get out of a wheelchair, there would be some sense of, there were still some nerves that were intact. And I think in the first 3 months of that, as the swelling started to come down and some of the bone fragments had been removed, I remember the day I was able to move my big toe on my right foot, just a tiny little bit, like just that much. And all it meant was that there was a connection from my brain at the top to the bottom toe, the toe at the bottom. And that meant there was an ability to something was able to get all the way down. And it was like that little bit that I just, how do we build on that? And that's how, ironically, my current position, I'm completely paralyzed still in my right leg. So my toe that moved first hasn't never improved. And actually that was all it did. But my left leg managed to recover quite significantly, and other areas of the body, my bladder and stomach, etc. So I was able to actually just build from the concept of saying there was tiny little, opportunity that was enough to just, start to build on. And I think
gave you the hope.
that's what well, it wasn't even hope. It was like, in my mind, it was certainty. Ironically, it's not about hope. You can't. For me, I wasn't able to hope that I'd get better. I was certain that there was enough physical. There was a logical way for the brain to connect through the spine somehow. What can we now do with it? And what would that look like? How far it would get, I didn't know. But there was certainly enough to know there was
Wow.
there was a chance.
Wow. Wow. That's crazy. I love something that you said just a few minutes ago that I don't remember the medical term that you used. I'm not a doctor, but you said that if something specific would have happened, so then you had no chance to recover. But then because there was that uncertainty, so that like that kind of that gave you the thought that okay, maybe you could recover. So what's so beautiful over here, you took uncertainty and you took uncertainty as something to give you hope. Like many times uncertainty in life, it helps, it doesn't help. Actually, it does the opposite, and people get uncertain and then like they lose faith in themselves and it starts going like in a down spiral. And you actually took the uncertainty and you made it into your base and into your, into the foundation that from there you're going up. And I love that. That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
opposite. So I want to understand another thing. Let's say, okay, now you start your recovery. Were there times, even though you said that it wasn't hope, you were certain, okay? Which is also, it's amazing. But I also think it told us something about sometimes in life, don't hope, like be certain this is what you're going to do and be committed 100%. But with all that said, were there times along the way that you say, you know what, I had enough, I did whatever I can, I just had enough? Like any giving up?
No, so there's a difference between the level of intensity in recovery and rehabilitation and giving up in terms of the journey. So I think the distinction is it's unsustainable to work at that level of initial rehabilitation intensity. Several hours a day. I'd go to a gym and if you're familiar, you go to a gym, you see this white bodybuilder who can lift whatever, I don't know, 100 pounds or whatever the weight is, and you see him sweating and completely fatigued. I'd look like that, and all I was doing was trying to do 3 sit-ups or lift 5-kilogram weights. So the level of intensity in a rehabilitation at that stage was very taxing and demanding. And I think from that sense, over a period of probably 6 months, the rate of recovery and improvement had certainly stagnated a lot. And I wasn't able to continue at that level of, rehabilitation, physio, I had to almost get back into a way of life. But that may have settled or plateaued somewhat, but never the sense of like I'm giving up on the fight or the life I want to build. And I think that's the distinction. There certainly are tougher days, but I think if anything, for me, it was just this absolute unwillingness to let negative thoughts or negative people, for that matter, into my head or into my space. So I was continuously only surrounded by people that saw things positively, were driving to a certain outcome, they were driven in their own purpose in life. But negative people, I wouldn't be around. And even today, I struggle to, either I'm helping them if there's a chance, but I'm avoiding that negativity. Words like I can't, words like I worked and we say, well, I'll try. You don't try, we just do it. Like we have to. There's a mindset. The brain becomes almost wired to just we'll push through. And I'll share a story that I'd never been overseas at the time, and about a year after that, I was involved with the Beitar movement in South Africa, and we went for a tour to Israel. And I'll share it with you in Jerusalem, so you'll appreciate it. So I'm in a wheelchair. I've got 7 of my friends, and we go on this. We do the tunnel tours, but it's not for wheelchairs. But the guys say, no, listen, we go, we will figure it out, and we start going. It's, I don't know, 10, 11 o'clock at night. It's August, September. It's so hot. We're sweating like crazy, and as we're going along the tunnel tours, the tunnel narrows, the whole way through. Now the wheelchair's stuck. We're halfway between where we started and where we were going, and now we can't turn around and we can't go forward. So we fold up the wheelchair, and I've got a friend of mine from holding me from behind. I'm on the chair, and I've got my legs in front of me, and we push through this folded up wheelchair all the way through till the end of the tunnel, and we just figured it out. The problem was we got to the other side. I think it was the Arab Quarter, and they're not used to having wheelchairs come through. So we've got these, I don't know, 6, 8 army soldiers, military soldiers, and they see us now coming through in a wheelchair. They're like, but you can't come through this gate. It's a turnstile, with a. So we have to disassemble the wheelchair to move the pieces through the thing. And I remember I had to hold on to the turnstile while they moved me through and reassembled the wheelchair on the other side. But that was my social circle. The guys would like figure it out. If we were doing the tunnel tour, we were doing it, and I went to that was very much I was very fortunate at that stage in my life. The positive side is I had, when you're 18, you think everything's possible, and no one can tell you no. So my friends were very supportive of that type of behavior. And I think, your Aunt Esty will certainly know we'd go to their house and, go there in a wheelchair on a Shabbos or whatever. And that was, we'd socialize or do whatever the same as anyone else. So it became, I was in a wheelchair, but living a very, very full life.
Wow. You gave me so many great, tips and ideas. What like you also said, like I think what the main one is the mindset, but not only the mindset, also having the right circle of people around you and not letting the negative thoughts in, and to be certain. Like there are many things that if someone's watching this now, whoever's watching, go back and I think each person could take to his life to anything in life. We can always focus on what's not working and let all the negative thoughts in. And by the way, we're human beings, so they will come. If someone thinks they won't, they will. That's what I believe in. You could disagree with me, but
Yeah.
But the fact that anything in life, just negative thoughts come in, let them go through, continue, have the right people around you. Because if you have the right people around you, so know that the people that support you, you support them, and having that mindset that that's what you're going to do. And I think something really beautiful that also you said, you were talking about the toe that was moving. And I think many times in life we take so many things for granted. And like when a toe is moving, and all of a sudden you could move, all of a sudden you could do these small things that now I'll walk to wherever, I'll say, okay, it's fine. But the most amazing things in life are the ones we take for granted. And I think especially, in hard times, realizing that, even if the toe is not moving now, so I'm not taking the hardship away at all. But I'm saying, so we have those right people, or we're hanging on actually to the uncertainty is something that actually push us back up. So always to find after accepting the situation, always then to move forward and to see what we do have and to get from that power in order to move on. So amazing tools, amazing tips for any challenge in life, for any time in life that we get tapped by the shoulder and we're not always ready for that. Usually we're not. So I really appreciate you sharing all those tools. Is there any other specific idea, tool, tip that you want to share?
No, I don't think anything specific. I just, for me, it's recognizing that most important is not focusing on what you can't do. I think we get caught up on, especially when you look around. For me, there was a trillion things I couldn't do, but I could only focus on the things that I could do, and make sure that if I could do them, I would keep doing them and doing them well and doing them better. And that built up a mindset of accomplishment. So I think, just we're living through some tough times. We just need to realize that focus on what is in our ability to do, and just stay positive. Don't let the negative stuff derail you.
Wow, David, only that alone, like all your story is amazing and all the tools you shared are amazing, but only that alone is like, wow, because like you said, many times in life we focus on what we can do, and then from there we're on the way down. So focusing on what we could do and having those positive thoughts.
Yeah.
Only practicing that, I really believe can change people's life. So I really appreciate your time today, sharing your story, which is really empowering. The tools that people can take over there for any situation, for anything. By the way, I'll share this with you. So in the dating world, so many times when you go out with a girl, so it's always like, why this doesn't work, why that doesn't work, and I'm in this world already for like 14 years. So someone lately told me something similar to what you just now said. He said, try focusing on what is working, what is good in the relationship, what qualities you do like. And that's
Right.
exactly what you said. It could be in a relationship, could be in business, could be if you're having any challenging thing in life. Like, what could you do? What is in your control that you could do? So that tool is beautiful. I love it. And I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank
Amazing,
you. Thank you
amazing.
for the opportunity.
Our pleasure. Thank you very much. Have a great evening there.
You too. Be well. Bye-bye.
Hi, I hope you enjoyed the video and you got some tools to overcome your challenges and light your path. For us to help other people, please press that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget that the most amazing things in life are the one you take for granted.